Ontario's new Premier Doug Ford will meet with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tomorrow. That's part of what's to be expected with a change in government. Convention also includes the repealing or reversal of some laws and regulations put in place by the previous government. Ontario's new PC government isn't breaking with convention at all. Premier Doug Ford has made or announced several reversals and delays on everything from ticket resale to prescription drug coverage. So is it politically motivated or a very sensible move? Time for the Power Panel. In Toronto, Amanda Alvaro of Pomp and Circumstance. Here with me, Summa Strategies' Tim Powers and Kathleen Monk of Earnscliffe Strategy Group. Hi, guys. Nice to see you. Amanda, why don't I start with you? What do you think about these reversals? Do they make sense, or are they just entirely politically motivated?
I'm just going to be wildly so supportive of everything that he does. I'm not. I think that there are a few things at play. There are some promises that that he certainly campaigned on, so it's no surprise to see that one of the first announcements upon taking office was around cap and trade. Of course, what seems to be coming out is really high on rhetoric, heavy on rhetoric, light on details. So press releases that are being issued that talk a lot about things like cash grabs, but don't really get into the details, like how much is this going to cost Ontarians? How much will this cost taxpayers? How are you going to deal with the businesses that have $3 billion worth of credits? Are you going to be facing lawsuits, or are you going to find those billions of dollars and pay it back? When do things take place? Also, reporters seem to be having trouble even getting through to offices because some of these announcements are being made in order to grab a bunch of headlines, but office staff isn't in place. So ministers are in place, but staff isn't in place. You can't even get through to the ministries in order to talk to somebody to understand the details. This is really unconventional because normally when you're going to put out something that will affect so many people's lives in so many different ways, you would expect that it would come with full details, not like the kind of platform that was released during the election campaign, which now seems to be a bit of a trend-setting move. This might be what we're going to expect from the Doug Ford government.
I don't know if it's so much trend-setting to completely undo some of the very symbolic things that you said you were going to do or suggested you were going to undo. Apparently, the Ontario government is now run by those ticket bots, which are legitimate again. And who cares? Maybe they work effectively. But joking aside, to answer your question, it's both politics, and some of it may or may not prove to be good policy. I mean, Ford got elected to be everything but Kathleen Wynne. And this clearly will separate him from Kathleen Wynne and some others on the left. What replaces some of these policies, time will tell if they were effective or not effective. I mean, the cap and trade one is hardly a surprise. He's said he's going to do that. The vaping one, I don't know where that came from, though there are a lot of Ontarians who may not know the benefits or detriments of vaping, depending on your perspective, who argue that it's a choice argument and the government should be out of that. So he's playing to a particular audience there. He says he's going to continue to look at it. Hardly surprising, the move on the police commission and the oversight powers there. Again, whether that's good or bad, time will tell. It's certainly going to keep all these ministers who don't yet have staff. Amanda's right about that. They're just staffing up, busy doing things. Though I think on the big stuff, you know, there is this symbolic stuff, and you talked about the meeting that Ford is going to have with the Prime Minister tomorrow. He's doing some sensible things that I think are wise. I mean, I think we would all agree it's good that Ontario is standing with Canada, and that was Ford's first gesture, standing with the Prime Minister against the tariffs and fighting for steel. So, yeah, he's doing some political things, but he's also doing some smart policy things that are good for the country.
Kathleen, you look like you're shaking your head.
Well, I agree with Amanda. It's like details schmeetails. You know what I mean? Like, it's like his platform. Like, he just doesn't actually need to articulate what's going to happen in terms of the cap and trade announcement that Amanda mentioned. Like, what's going to happen to all those businesses that invested. There's no details. And a lot of these things are happening in the back room without staff. You know, the ledge hasn't reconvened. So I have some concerns about that. That said, I mean, on June 7th, when Ontarians voted, no one voted for the scalper bots. No one said, yes, we want them back. I want never to be able to take my kids to a Jays game again because I can't afford the $400 ticket it is to go and see.
I will say, though, the opposition did criticize that bill for being unenforceable. Part of that, the part that they removed for saying unenforceable.
Yeah, but you have the Liberals and the Conservatives weakened the bill. Like, if we want to go into the details of the amendments made to the bill and what happened to the bill, we can. But it was a bad Liberal bill. It should have been strengthened to begin with. But ultimately, I'm surprised by the scalper bot announcement today, because in many ways it's like, this is not the message if I want to be forward for the people. It's like forward for the scalper bots, right? Forward for the people that are gouging children out of their first opportunity to see Bruno Mars or Justin Timberlake.
Maybe that's the human rights issues.
Listen, I remember my first concert at the Maple Leaf Center and going to see
Platinum
the Box.
Blonde.
No, it was a really bad concert. I'm not going to say it on air. But so this is, I don't know, it's a weird message to send, right? Cap and trade, I agree. Like that is a larger conservative movement play. But there's other messages that he's sending in his first, week or so being sworn in, like the downgrading of the energy ministry. That it's a part-time job. That despite he said he would fight hydro and the changes that have really enraged so many Ontarians in terms of the price of hydro, and it's a part-time ministry combined with a few other things jammed in there. There's no longer, not only did he just fire the chief scientist, but he actually doesn't have a department that deals with research and science any longer. I mean, it's going to be interesting when the ledge gets kicked up.
The chief scientist whose long tenure in Ontario was all of 6 months. No chief scientist has existed before, but
you
again,
don't fire somebody without having a plan.
Well,
I mean, regardless of if you think that was a partisan appointment.
I don't think he got elected to maintain the chief scientist's job. So again, what he's doing is hardly surprising. He's not getting credit for something, which is keeping the Green Ontario rebates. He's going to make sure they were inclusive until the day he took over, so he's not gone entirely retrograde, as some would describe it. But the debate that Amanda and Kathleen are reflecting, he'll want, because he will then use that to motivate other actions. So as we've talked about in the U.S. and other jurisdictions, he's going to play off this to say, see, look, you have to give me the enthusiasm and your support, because the response from those who I would define as the common enemy is predictable. They're not going to let me do anything, so you need to stay strong with me.
Well, let me be the poster child then with my two little boys who love the Jays to be like, now they're never, I will be that poster child. Well, how will they get the tickets?
Buddy on Front Street will sell you tickets for $25.
Yeah, and who can afford them?
They're terrible right now. You can get them for free.
Amanda, why don't I bring you in? What do you think this meeting tomorrow is going to be like with the Prime Minister, and how significant is it for each of them?
Well, I think it's tone setting in many ways, and certainly coming off the heels of the cap and trade announcement, there's no doubt that will be the central communication between both the Prime Minister and the Premier. And what will that look like? Is the Premier headed to a Saskatchewan-esque role where he'll be planning, lawsuits against the federal government, or is he prepared to work with the Prime Minister and the federal government to move forward on some of the issues that the country is currently facing, like the trade issues? So there are some issues that play really well for the new Premier, issues that he'll want to be seen to be standing up with kind of like this Captain Ontario sort of hat on. I have no doubt that he'll do that. And on others, he will use them as a political wedge to motivate people, particularly around issues related to the environment. So I expect that he'll have this meeting, he'll come out of the meeting, and there will be a lot of rhetoric, the way that we've seen it sort of unfold over the last few days, and he'll be, promoting the issues that really work for him, frankly, as any new Premier would. So I don't expect a lot of the unexpected, but I do think that there's a little bit more predictability about him, and we can, if we look at the last few days of the election, if we look at the kind of issues that he's circled around and around, he likes to put bright, shiny objects in the window. He likes to promote that as much as possible, and he wants to get as much play off of it. I think the one interesting thing is the barrage of announcements that they've made in these first few days. It's like, how quickly can you put out announcements without having any time to really talk about them and get the mileage off them that one would expect?
But he won a provincial election for good or for bad, he won a provincial election campaign that way. So he has created, as Amanda's alluding to, expectations that he's going to act quickly. I think we would all agree, the announcements aside, some of these changes are going to take a long time. The replacement for whatever cap and trade is, the replacement for whatever might be the vaping policy, or the replacement for some of the other things. But that's not what's important to him right now. He needs to show his supporters and Ontarians that he is living up to his intent to act. Outcomes will take a while.
But listen, just quickly, I think that tomorrow's meeting with the Prime Minister will be interesting to watch. But the more interesting meeting will be in St. Andrews, New Brunswick, in mid-July at the Council of Federation. Can you imagine being around that that table? That is going to be interesting.
No, it's
I
going to be
want to
the
see how
best.
he interacts with Premier Notley or Premier Horgan or Premier Couillard if he manages to
Well,
become
there's no law preventing the scalping of tickets down
To
there,
that?
so you can
Well,
scalp tickets to the FCN.
Yeah,
$400,
tickets to the Council Federation for everyone.
All right.